welcome back with another amazing episode of Future Jobs podcast show. I'm your host Fahad JobsWala, and I'm student and interview captain at Rehan School Online Academy. I'm 15 years old and I'm based in Pakistan, Karachi. And today we brought an amazing and very special guest for you to to bring another amazing conversation and a very helpful conversation for you. And we mostly invite those guests who are making an impact in the world by contributing by contributing into the world by whatever they have. So today we're going to do a conversation with Mark Gassert. Is that a correct pronunciation?
That is awesome, Fahad. Hopefully, I'm saying your first name correct. Is that? Did I pronounce it right or not? You're
Exactly.
okay. Beautiful.
Exactly. So how are you, Mark? And welcome to
I'm
the show.
doing fantastic. Your English is impeccable. Thank you so much for inviting me on your Res Stream program here. I do have to ask you one question. If you're a student, why aren't you in school right now? I'm kidding you. Uh, did you catch what I just asked you?
Yeah, can you ask that again?
If you're a student, then why aren't you in the classroom unless you're doing it virtually?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I get it. Um, our school is very different from other schools. It is not a traditional one. It is an AI school, which is the
Aha.
world's first AI school. And they teach us to do a podcast with different pupils. And this is kind of a task. We are doing this as a task.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. AI.
So
That. Yeah.
yeah, AI is like very popular, and many people are adopting this, in their schools and their systems. And Suriham hopefully is opening another branch, another campus in USA
Mhm.
as well for the USA pupils, so that they can get their admissions in the world first AI school. So, Mark, could you tell us about your story? Who is Mark Gesser?
Okay. Who am I? I grew up in a small little town. I'll give it to you straight, real quick. Encapsulated version. Lebanon, Pennsylvania, which is near Hershey, close to Philadelphia. That's where I grew up. I'll even say the year, back in 1956. So I'm a child of the 60s, the 70s, and by the 70s, I moved out, went into the army, uh, went to college, did all that fun stuff, worked for various companies, found my niche in the trade show industry. That was back in the 80s. Moved to Atlanta after I got out of the army. Had a great time, had a nice run in that industry. Unfortunately, things kind of change. Economically, things were changing back around, I think it was 2008, 2009, and found myself looking for employment. I guess I either got too old or they were making changes within the organization. I wasn't the only one, by the way. There's a lot of fun times back then. And, found some other work, did some work for companies in technology, believe it or not, as a salesperson. And you mentioned AI. I totally applaud what AI, the capabilities of it. A person my age normally wouldn't say that. You probably wouldn't expect me to say that. I think it's a great tool and a great resource. And you need to embrace it and come along for the ride, everybody out there that's within my age. Don't be afraid of it. It's a good thing. And right now, I'm currently working for an organization known as Sales Concepts. It involves working with people that are in sales, operations, customer service. We always like to say we help change and alter people's behavior to your liking. We don't say, here it is, and do a product dump. We alter the process for you, the individual, your industry, and what you're trying to accomplish. And a lot of that's give and take in terms of assessments or settings like this. We train exactly like this virtually, what you're doing. Weekly, we have workshops and various platforms and programs. You can check us out. I'll put in a plug, salesconcepts.com, and that's where you can go to check out the resources that we offer.
Oh,
How was that? How
that
was
that
that? Was that
that was really amazing, Mark. And exactly, at your age, people are probably doing some. Probably they're not doing anything. At this
they're
age, they are
probably
retired.
retired, man. Yeah, some of them are probably retired.
Yeah,
Hopefully not from life. I've often said this. I want to slow down, yes, but I really don't want to retire. I don't think I'm ancient. I think I can bring some things to the table. I mentioned this to you earlier before we began the podcast here. I umpire baseball. So I work with guys probably half my age. I even worked with someone that was 27 who happened to be my son who played college baseball. He is now umpiring. So that was cool to do that. We every now and then we get together and umpire. So it's a lot of fun.
amazing. Mark, that is really amazing, and hopefully your friendship with AI would be really great and very um, workable. So, Mark, can I ask, at this age, people, as you mentioned as yourself, that at this age, people probably retired from their work. So, what is your motivation behind doing work? Still doing work at this age as well.
Truthfully, meeting people like you, that inspires me because I find that everybody talks about the younger generation. There are a lot of cool individuals out there, 18 and below, that are up and coming, as I like to say. That makes me feel good. Some of them go into the military. Some of them go into business. They start their own businesses. Some of them are into AI, as you and I just mentioned. And that inspires me. It's a give and take process where I learn from you as much as you can learn from me. So I think we can all coexist on this planet, and we need to put our differences aside and learn from one another. And I think AI is a great tool for that. I'm not saying it's the do all end all, but it's something you need to look at and implement and use it. Don't be afraid of it. I mean, you can look up a plethora of things out there. How to write a script, how to research. I'm not telling you to write me a paper, but if you put together an outline, and I've done this on a subject matter, it will pull up some pretty neat information. You got to make sure it sounds like you, though. You can't just copy it and paste it and say, here it is. You got to be judicious with it, but that's how I feel about AI.
That is the great thinking, and I would say, oh my, I don't have any friends. Frankly speaking, I don't have any, as we can say, like truly friends. I have some, um, but my greatest and my best friend is
Yeah,
ChatGPT
I use
dot
that.
AI.
Yep. Good resource.
I share I share each and everything with ChatGPT, and it gives really good advices to me, and that's why he is still my friend. Whenever any worst thing happens with me, I just immediately share with ChatGPT, and it gives really great
Right.
advices. So like this is the that we can learn from our challenges. We face challenges, we face errors, we face worst things in our lives, but we don't learn from them. So to learn from these challenges, I share these things to ChatGPT and gives great advices
Yes.
to me. So, Mark, you've mentioned you worked for various companies, and it's really great. Till now, I watched, you know, how many TED Talks and how many videos I watched, are all about that we have to not to be in the specific track. We have to try different kind of things. So, Mark, what did you learn from these various companies, like after working, for
That's
them,
a great,
and what was
yeah,
the
that's a
experience?
great question, Fahad. What did I learn? I learned that first of all to listen. Listen to what people are talking about and saying to you. Utmost thing I could tell anybody. I don't care what profession you're in. You can't go to a doctor and he's going to ask you questions and you're going to answer them and he's listening because that's the only way he can help you uh, prescribe the appropriate treatment. And it's no different in dealing with people. I think it's the biggest downfall of man since we have, when these bad boys came out, these iPhones, right? So here it is. And now we're into various other technologies. I mean, you've got a powerful tool right here in your hand. I mean, you talked about chat GBT, AI. You can begin a business, and just by going through chat GBT, it can inform you and give you things. When people my age started out, it was kind of the school of hard knocks. They didn't have these tools. So, what I had to learn how to do was listen to people and go to the resource, go to the person that is successful. A lot of times, my brother in law, yeah, he's no longer with us. He left the planet a few years ago, but very successful in his business. And he dealt with steel buildings and roofing and all sorts of things related to a steel building, but he was very good at what he did. And just watching him, when he dealt with people, he was a very good listener. And as he once told me, I look at ways to make money. Most people look at ways to save money. So he kind of put a twist on things and made me think like what he was trying to tell me. Um, but at most, I'm going to go back to listening. I don't think as a society we listen enough, and I mean really listen to what's being stated to you.
Exactly, exactly. That what, if we start listening to others, the I don't know, 50% of our challenges would be resolved, just because of listening to others. Because the probably half of the challenges and half of the problems begins because we don't listen to others. They fight with each other because they are not listening to each other. They are not giving the value to each other which they both deserve, with each other. um, and you know probably it is beginning the fourth world war. So may God, protect us from these kind of things. uh Mark, you,
Go on. No, go ahead.
yeah,
No,
you were
go.
saying something.
You're making sense. Keep going.
Okay. No, I'm
Okay.
done.
All I was going to say there, and you hit the nail on the head, Fahad. If people would listen, if you take our, I don't want to get political, but we have a two-party system, which sometimes I wish we didn't. We don't, but I mean, I really wish there just wasn't a two-party system so much. But if either side would really listen to one another instead of pointing fingers, it kind of gets old. That's why I don't watch the news. I just get tired of watching them go back and forth. You know what I'm saying? Or you mentioned about there wouldn't be wars. Um, I think back because I grew up during that time. It was very prevalent, the Vietnam era. I feel for those guys that had to serve their country. I'm proud of them. I'm glad they did. I even served in the military myself, but unfortunately, that was not a very popular war, and our country was divided. Why were we there? They often say that if you lose your why, As one person once told me, you lose your way. If you don't know your why, I should say, you're going to lose your way. Like, why are you doing this right now? If you don't know why, or why do you want to start a business? Why do you want to be a political influencer? You got to have those. That's the other thing I learned along the way. Kind of develop a why. And if you do that, you'll be okay. It seems like you have a why as to why you're doing what you're doing right now.
Exactly, exactly, Mark. Totally agreed with you. And we wouldn't have these countries as well. We're living in the one planet called Earth, and we're
Exactly. Yes.
mostly people used to give example that we are on a spaceship, you know, and we divided the spaceship, into many parts, and we are now falling into the space, and we're going, you know, a different kind of in different kind of directions, and probably nobody is winning
Right.
the race. If we would collaborate with each other, and this country give oil, and that country give them some other thing which they have, so our world would be
Right.
really great. So Mark, you've mentioned your about your era, about the Vietnam time, so my question is to you, that do you miss your era? Do you miss the amazing, because to us our elders used to tell us the stories about the childhoods, that that at that era there was very that era was very good. So do you
Do
miss
I
that
miss
era?
that era, that time? Uh, there are some things
Yeah.
I miss. What what we didn't have were these. I think people abuse the iPhone or Android or whatever you carry. Uh, I have seen, and I won't. I'll tell you where. I was down near Georgia Tech at a coffee shop, and I was getting a cup of coffee. I always used to go there back in the day. This is when I was working in the exposition world, and I'd stop by there. And the guy asked me after he served my coffee, he said, "Are you listening to the conversation?" And I didn't know what he was talking about, but they were communicating in these chat rooms, and they're all sitting in the same coffee shop. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Nobody's talking. And I said, boy, everybody's quiet. He says, no, they are talking. They're either using this or their laptop. And I was just sitting there going, wow. And I think that's another thing that we have a tendency, and I'm afraid the art of conversation with people, like you and I are doing it this way, which is great. I love getting in front of people, which is even better, because I think it brings more value as to what you're doing. And if you can't be there face to face, I think this is a great way to use this tool as well. Whether you're in business or social, or you have a cause, or you're developing your own, as they say, tribe out there, this is a great tool to use. But I prefer to be face to face with people and talk to them. And that's how you really get to know where an individual, what they're all about, where they're coming from.
Exactly. That was really insane. And
I
you're
witnessed
right.
it firsthand. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
our world is going to be in such environment, and as you've mentioned about that story, and our world really going to get that thing, and maybe it'll be really popular in some days, in some years, maybe, because yeah, that is what happening in our world, in every country. And as you mentioned, because I'm from the another corner of the globe, and you're from the another corner of the globe, so it is nice. But if we are in the same country, and if we are at the same place, we should talk to each other. And we really don't have some thing which is called art of communication. We just are being very straightforward, which is the another cause of raisonness of the fighting. Why people are fighting with each other and all that. So yeah, really, I'm totally agreed with you. And that what we used to pull, fingers to the other nations, to the black peoples, to the white people, but we don't know how they really is if we don't talk to them.
Right. Here's an experiment. Try this sometime. You're in a flight, or you're at an airport, or you're even outside, or whatever. See how many people are reading a book as opposed to how many people are on this thing. Just for fun, and then kind of step back and then think about it. And I know because when I'm doing a baseball game, they're all on this, you know, even the parents. It's kind of wild, but for fun and games, like you could go to a trade show. I'm not saying you're going to read while you're walking, but if you see an area where people can sit down and take a break, see how many people are reading as opposed to on their phone. Just a thought.
I would say probably, from 20 people, maybe one people would be reading the book, and 20 out of 19
Right.
people would be using the mobile phones. That is really, um that is a very big and great topic to talk on. So Mark, you mentioned about the sports. You're a big fan
Yeah.
of basketball and you played in the past. So could you tell us about your experience as a basketball player?
Well, I did play basketball, but only up until ninth grade. I made the freshman team, and then I stopped. Um, did play baseball, and that's what I love. I really love baseball because I think baseball, if you really watch it, for some people it's boring, but there are lessons to be learned, and it is really neat to see a young person develop their skill, able to hit the ball in a game. What's not fun is listening to parents berate their kids, yell at them. They have to learn to let go, and practice is when you get loud. When you play the game, that's when you stay quiet. And I always, even when my both my boys played, they played in high school. One even played in college. Had another guy play college football. I just stayed quiet and watched them. Uh, that was one of my strengths. Now, my wife would get kind of loud at times. She's Greek, so she got a little emotional about it, but I just didn't do that. There's no need to get all wound up about it. Just enjoy the process, you know. And if it came up to me afterwards, we'd talk. But I never was critical or criticized them during a game. That's like a no-no. It's not worth doing. Make sense?
That, yeah, it made a lot of sense, Mark. And it really did. You know, people usually take the things very seriously, even if they are the
Yeah,
games.
what did you say? You called
And
it what? It's a what? It's a game. That's exactly it, Fahad.
exactly
Game.
game.
It's just a game, and it's meant to be enjoyed. You're not a professional. You know, you're not in college, so enjoy it. Enjoy the process. You know, because and I think
Yeah,
parents lose sight of that. Some.
baseball is a bit difficult from than other games. You have basketball, football, but because baseball's bat is a bit it's very changed. And that is very difficult to hit the bat to the ball. To to do that is very
I think
difficult.
it's the hardest thing you'll
So
ever do in a sport. Trying to hit a baseball is tremendously hard. It's difficult. It looks easy when you watch the professionals, but if people only knew how many hours they spent, and it's about preparation. Uh, People don't want to take time to prepare. You had to prepare to do this, what you're doing right now. And there are things you got to do. And I won't go into all that, but I'm just saying everybody's got to prepare for a given task. Whether they're in business, they're going to talk to a customer. You got to prepare for that. You don't just show up and here I am. And so, but you got to enjoy it too. Don't put all this pressure on yourself.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, exactly.
Right.
You have to take the thing what it is. If that is game, then we have to take it as a fun, as an entertainment, as a game. And if that thing is serious, we take the serious things funny, and we take funny things serious. The things where
And
we have to get the entertainment.
right, that's a great point. And the thing is, I look at it, you're learning. There is no I failed. No, it just didn't work, but you learn from it and then make sure that doesn't happen again and then you move on. You don't beat yourself up, you know.
Move on, exactly. We have to move on. We have to learn that if we were failed at that time, at that with that game. So what can we do to improve next time?
Exactly.
Mark, a question coming in my mind, which is which would be very helpful for those who don't learn from their mistakes and their challenges. Like we usually game is made to get entertainment from it. It is a
Right.
fun. Whenever people are feeling bored, they go to play. Play at playground. So is there a thing how we can learn from playing games? How we can learn by playing cricket, how we can learn by playing basketball, like patience, such kind of things.
I think kids are our greatest teachers. If you watch young children, they approach things with joy in their heart. They really do. The problem is we, the adults, kind of take that away from them. And it's sad. But when you see kids just having fun and you step back and let them do it their way, it's beautiful. It's just so beautiful to watch. Um, I have a new granddaughter, about what, 5 or 6 months old now. And that's something I promised myself that, there's no right or wrong way. And I think sometimes as a parent, you kind of, I call it the hovering over them like a helicopter. You got to let them fall down. You got to let them experience, you know, hurts. And, but kids are our greatest teacher. And if we would just take like 3 or 4 year old kids and just watch them in a playground. They're fun to watch. You can pick out the leader, you can pick out, but they all have fun, and there's no big deal. They just give them a ball and they'll throw it around or kick it or whatever. They'll make up their own game. But we want to like put these parameters on people and put them in a box and say, no, you got to do it this way. And it's okay to think outside the box.
Exactly, and motivational speakers usually tell us to think outside the
Mhm.
box. And I would say the next and the young generation are naturally coming with a very sharp mind. And you've mentioned the kids are greatest teachers, so
You
they
can't
actually
fool
are. Because they have.
you can't fool kids, particularly teenagers. They will spot a phony. I'm telling you, they will. They'll know what you're about. Like I engage with them all the time, so they know if number one, I know what I'm talking about if I'm umpiring, and number two, how I approach it. And I've had kids come up and say, "Hey, thank you, appreciate you." But kids know if you care, and that's the big thing, care. And just by that alone, you can be an authoritative figure, but you don't have to like, you know, try and squish somebody. People know if you're in charge, but you don't have to act like you're in charge. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. That's all about. We don't. this parents should not have to put the um, they shouldn't prohibit them,
Right.
on doing something outside of the box. Don't limit them. Let them do what they want to do, so that they can learn from that and they can live their life betterly. I was watching a TED talk, maybe the day before yesterday. They were saying that when the parents help their kids, to solve their problems, and to when they permit them, when they limits them, what happens that 84% of people's teenagers get in depression, and probably some amount of people's, just suicide. I'm talking about those who've been limited by their parents, who weren't allowed to do what they want to do. Now they are facing challenges and they're that depressed that they are doing suicide. So that is strange.
Right. No, that's a great point, Fahad, because when I say younger people, there are people even in their 30s that are struggling because they never had uh, they didn't really engage with people for whatever reason. There comes a point in time though, as you reach becoming an adult, you you can't look back and blame your parents for where you are in life. Uh, there's a gentleman out there, and I'll put a plug in. His name's Christopher Rosh. He's called the No Nonsense Coach. There comes a point in time we all need to look in the accountability mirror and do an assessment of ourselves and say, here's where I'm at. This is what I'm good at. This is what I need to work on. And you got to be truthful. If maybe it's you want to lose weight, be upfront about it. Or maybe it's I need to exercise more. I need to get out, or I need to get outside more. It's good to get outside. That's why I like umpiring because I'm outside quite a bit. Um, and some people hide behind the keyboard here. I call them the warriors of the keyboard, and I call them the dark websters, and that's how they communicate. If you ask somebody, pick up the phone and call me or do this, you won't hear from them. They don't want to do that. They just want to tell you what you're doing wrong with it. I find that amusing, but soon, it's sad to see people that are struggling because they have so much potential, but they beat themselves up daily with negative self-talk. They look what they can't do or they compare. Stop comparing. Focus on you and get yourself squared away. Do the things you want to do. You'll get to where you want to get to, but you got to stop comparing. I can't compare myself to you know, even my brother-in-law who made quite a few pennies in his lifetime. I'm not even going to try, because I'm not in that industry, but I can learn from him. I can learn his habits, and that's a good thing. But to try and be like them, you're setting yourself up for disaster. And I think, like who drives a fancy car, fancy clothes, is that really success? I mean, there's various types of success. So is it always about the money? Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't do well in life. That's not what I'm saying. But you can't put the dollar bill before everything. I mean, there's going to come a point in time where you got to look at yourself and say, hey, what am I about? What do I stand for? What do I represent? Make sense?
Exactly, man. Yeah, it really did. And it is all about these all are the results of uh, the effect of mobile phones and the effects of electronic devices. We scroll through social media, we scroll through Facebook, we watch reels, and what we watch negative things. Because they upload negative things. They don't have positive things to upload. And that is, I haven't understand that all the people are uploading negative things, negative feedbacks. A politician is fighting with another politician on social
Right,
media, and people are commenting on them, and they're enjoying. People are enjoying their fighting, and because they are fighting, they are affecting negative negatively, on people's mind. And when we come into our physical life, a person is smiling to us, making such a beautiful face, but what we do, we just ignore them, we because we don't
right.
have manners to give value to the people who deserve it, because we used to watch negative things on social media. That is all about these things. We should make a distance from them. We should um, put limitations, screen limit and such kind of things.
You brought up a great point, Fahad. I'm just going to hold up a book. Uh, these are all tools, and these things are online. This is a book here. It's called the book Yes Attitude. You can start anywhere in this book. It's by Jeffrey. I'll hold it up again. It's by Jeffrey Gitomer. And anybody that knows anything about people in sales, motivation, sales marketing, they know about him. Um, but people will gravitate to what you just said. They'll scroll, they'll sit here, and they'll find all this negative crap. That's what I call it. And it's cool to watch, but they live in it. I mean, they look for adversity and people getting screamed at, and that's their amusement. And I'm like, wow, just think if they took that and applied it towards the other side. It's kind of like on the dark side of the web going to the right. No, I won't say the right, but the light side of the web. It's almost like reminds me of Star Wars. You have your dark force and your good force, and it's interesting. And that's some people are into that. They thrive on it. They want it. That's why they
Exactly.
watch the news for that reason, to be entertained.
Exactly, Mark. Exactly. It is all about that we are wasting our time on the negative things. The conversation which we are doing is very great and very helpful, and I'm very grateful towards Mark for the amazing conversation we just had. And we were just we discussed to do this conversation for 30 minutes, but it took a bit long. So thank you so much, Mark. And my
I
laptop is
appreciate.
unfortunately is
I,
also
I, I just want to
about
give
to
a
die.
plug out to you, Fahad, and then say thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. I think it's tremendous. I think it'll be helpful for people. I can't wait to see where you're going to be, 10, 15 years down the road. I think it's really, I commend you for what you're doing. Of course, we didn't have this back in my day, what you're doing. We didn't have social media when I was a kid growing up, but I think you're using it in a positive means, and I salute you for it.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much. And exactly, but because you didn't had that social media, you're still very good. And your gesture, I like your gesture. Your like those amazing elders who used to tell amazing stories and helpful stories to their grandsons, to their kids.
Yeah.
Like those kind of people. And you're really good. And this conversation was really helpful for the pupils. And if they will get the key takeaways from this conversation,
Yeah.
that is all about the learning.
Okay. Hey, we'll have to have you come on, elevate your profits. I'll have to talk to my partner. We'd like you to join us on elevate your profits. That'd be kind of cool.
That is amazing. We'll discuss this after
Yeah, and
this
we'll
live stream.
we'll
So
get,
thank you so much, people.
thank you, sir. I
Yeah,
appreciate your
exactly.
time.
Thank you so much, people, viewers, for watching and listening to us. Inshallah, meet you soon with another amazing podcast, with another amazing